I'm gonna count down you. You never seen Beverly Hills Ninja?
I've seen Beverly Hills Ninja.
I know you have because you're a normal person. Jordan
Yeah.
Klein. Come on, man.
What?
Get with it. Come on. We got to be better than that. We're going to be better than that here on this PGA DFS strategy show. I promise you. Want to welcome everybody in. A little Pebble Beach Pro-Am 2024. Hurricanes, non-cuts, 80-man fields. Not Beverly Hills Ninja. I wish we were talking about that. Our producer of this show has not seen that movie. And he said he's a big fan of Chris Farley. I don't really understand that, but we're going to get into it. We're going to showcase the values in the tools, build out some lineups, give some hot takes, recap farmers. We got it all going on. I'm Rasa. Eric Lindquist joins me. You should have seen what he did to get here. You had to fight through screens and broken wires and everything, but you're here. You're looking crisp, ready to go. Got the Viking shirt. How you feeling?
Yeah, like a loser, sporting my losing team that will never ever make me happy.
And I have
with the lines.
Shirt,
Yeah, there you go. How's the Iran soccer game going?
Good. Yeah, I had to leave it. It was in extra time. Iran was man down. Yes, Chris Rock also in Beverly Hills Ninja.
Sure,
elite movie. We're gonna get into it. Let's get it started, friends. I see you all in chat. Appreciate you. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, all those good things. Let's build up. I know golf hasn't really got there, but wait till the Super Bowl and waste management, which is next. And now we're gonna start getting real dangerous. But we do have the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I want to look backwards at farmers. We saw a pretty cool event. No, not really. It's been a crazy string of winners, a crazy string of big time triple digit winners. What were your thoughts, if any, of what we saw last week?
I liked none of it. It was not fun. Obviously the Morikawa Cantlay at the top would have been nice to have either of them show up over the weekend, specifically Cantlay in one lineup that could have salvaged my weekend, the only one with the Frenchman in it. But it was just another guy from the clouds. And this is starting to be a thing. Obviously, nice to have it be a professional golfer who ended up winning, as opposed to an amateur who comes out from the clouds to take your Bez W from you. But I mean, it's just been brutal here in the early going of it. I know we have like the live discourse. We have everything going on. With the PGA Tour now, they're going to be privately backed and have, some funding come in, people that hopefully can infuse a little bit of life here into the tour. But a really strange deal to go from Chris Kirk to Grayson Murray just what are we doing here?
I don't know. And yeah, Jaeger was up there certainly battling.
Jaeger I felt so freaking good about. He was the only, there were 3 bets last week and I was like, Jaeger was the obvious one. He was my highest owned golfer. Still just ended up getting wrecked because, couldn't find his way to the top. And enough people were on the Frenchman, enough people were on other pieces up top that it didn't really give me any differentiation at the end of the week, which just sucked.
I hear you. I was in the same boat, had Finau as well right there, and I just couldn't get the right concept. Now, in the end, it didn't matter because my Pavone teams were not useful. So I was, maybe the Morikawa thing wouldn't have hurt as bad. I was very upset that he missed that cut. He killed some things. I got my hole-in-one for the first time in like 6 years with Decky.
That was my first week playing Decky, and I'm like, I'm going to run to the top. And then on Sunday, I ended up maxing out Showdown, and Shane Lowry, I have 0%, and he hits a double eagle. I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? It was just an awful week when it came down to it. I was just like on the wrong side of everything, even though I felt like I was on the right side. I had tons of Shane Lowry in week long, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter for the week long.
And that's where we are. We turned the page, but we're going to get into it now. Now, I want to say right off the bat, the Pro-Am, this is a weird situation, and it's different than what we had normally seen. We used to talk about a triple course rotation. This is only 2 courses, 3 Pebble, 1 Spyglass, and this is a non-cut now, an elevated event. It's very, very different. Let's talk about the courses, though. Postal, par 72, short, wind, potentially. Talk to me about what you're seeing as we start to dive into this field.
Yeah, so the number one thing that I'm going to throw out that I think I'm going to be the only person who has said so far on a show, I listened to a lot of podcasts this morning, went through a lot of my work, started my work a little bit later than I normally do because the NBA streets, they've been brutal with injury news here lately. But from a golf perspective this morning, there's no draw. There's no tee time draw. there's not, because you could maybe have a course draw that you could pay attention to, but the idea that there's a tee time draw, the tee times only go from 8:45 to 10:33 local time. We're talking less than a 2-hour window. Now, maybe you get absolute Hurricane Katrina come through at some point in time and it becomes a deal for one wave of it. But that feels unlikely because I feel like the entire golf course is going to be exposed for everybody. Like, you're going to get the same draws on those golf courses. So I see more of a golf course draw where maybe a golf course plays easier in this wave as opposed to the other. So I'm being very specific with weather draws. So that's the first thing, because the weather on Sunday looks apocalyptic. There's no question about it. I have friends. I think they're going to have to play 36, or they might have to do something where they just cancel it out ahead of time and just say, we're going to play 54 holes come Friday. Like, those are your really only two options. There's only 80 golfers. So 36 is in play if they tee off at like 7 a.m. local time for everybody. But if that's 5 hours on each side of it, they don't have enough daylight to finish it up on Saturday. I think that's the biggest concern for Pebble all day there for Saturday. But Sunday looks apocalyptic. If they're playing golf Sunday, you're going to get some weirdness that just doesn't even make sense. I doubt they can play. Monday doesn't look a hell of a lot better, but it looks playable as long as the course isn't crazy, crazy wet, which it should be anyway. But obviously, everybody's talking about the weather as they should be. But luckily for me, my best friend in the entire world, Matt Pretty, lives up north there in Salinas, which is about 15, 20 minutes outside of Monterey. So we got boots on the ground this week. I'm going to be paying attention to that. Jumping in the Discord, if there's anything going on in terms of like crazy wind weather, he's going to be out at the golf course. I know that he used to caddy there. He got into real estate, but he used to caddy over at Pebble Beach and Spyglass and all of these tracks. So he has a ton of familiarity. I caddied for him when he played in the TaylorMade Invitational, which split between those two courses as well. They had Spyglass and Pebble in the rotation for that. So a lot of experience that I have being up there. I've never played those golf courses. I qualified for US 4-ball up at Poppy Hills with my 4-ball partner, but love the region, love the golf courses. Just, I'm telling you ahead of time, this weather is going to be so hostile that for me, one, I don't know how I go about betting this event. I have no idea. If you have ideas, let me know. But two, from a DFS perspective, there are no tee time waves. There are golf course waves. That's the only thing that I can think of.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen, and I get why we're all paying attention to the weather, because you should. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I also think we got to remember that's probably more of a factor on Sunday. We got a bunch of golf before then that these guys are going to play, and I'm going to treat it pretty straight up because you mentioned this is a small field. It's a non-cut. There's a lot going on there, and we've got a huge amount of big name players. So I don't know. I'll be honest. I think it's a normal week with just extreme, not that there's not a lot of variance in any golf week. There's just more this week. You're going to see some really weird stuff. Like you said, I don't think you can really plan for it because you just don't even know where your golfer would be positioned as the weather comes in terms of where he is on the board. I think you just play it pretty straight up.
Yeah, I think you play it straight up. The one, as I said, I think I might try like a golf course, like a nuanced golf course draw where Pebble's playing easier, or you know, if they end up Thursday, the weather doesn't look great tomorrow, there's an opportunity for potential, you know, late start stuff where they have to switch golf courses on Friday, which is just an insane thing to think about. With only 80 players as opposed to a full field that they normally have up here, should make it easier. Limited number of amateurs should make it easier up here. It is going to still be very wonky. It's still going to have its nuances, you know, only 36 that you have to deal with the amateurs for this one. There will be none of them on the weekend. Although it would have been fun to watch like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers play golf on Sunday here. That would have been incredible. Would have been a complete disaster too. But as I look at the board for me, the idea of a tee time draw isn't what people think it is. If people are talking about that on other shows, they don't know what they're talking about.
Let's get into the board. Let's start looking at these players because, again, you're going to have, I mean, you got Rory and Scheffler, Hovland, Xander. These are big name players, the best in the world that are here at least. And we're ready to look at them. You're going to have options of how you dive in. Obviously, we've got our tools from lineup generator to the Sims. We're going to put them on the screen, have some fun with it. What are you drawn to up top? I know Rory hasn't been, teeing it up. But is he where you're drawn to? Scheffler and his putter? How do you go about sorting out the top?
So Rory's probably got the best form of anybody coming into this. I mean, he went over, he had back-to-back events out there in Dubai, finished second, which was like an apocalypse on 18 to lose to Fleetwood. And then he just steamrolled dudes the next week. So goes second first out in Dubai, where he always plays well. This is going to be very, very different. And obviously the golf course, both Pebble Beach and Spyglass both kind of neutralize what he's good at, which is just bombing it off the tee and setting yourself up to just wedge it all over the place and just smack people around that way. Pebble Beach does have that nuance where, it's the closest proximity to the hole that you see on tour because it's the smallest greens that you run into on tour. It's very, very difficult to hit these things, and you're going to have people who just wedge it and putt it really, really well. And you don't get those type of plays that, it's never a bad thing to hit it far. I think I've said that back since like the Bryson DeChambeau days doing these shows with you for 3+ years, but it's still one of those things where I would love to have a golf course that fits that more for Rory. But still, he's putting the ball well. He just got done with some great form overseas in decent fields that probably looked pretty comparable to what we just saw in Torrey Pines. So getting up to Rory at 11.5, I don't completely hate the idea. I would say between him and Scheffler, where do you see this ownership landing between the two of them? Because that's going to be a debate I have. You can't play both. I think that's just out of the question, but I want to find myself onto a little bit more Rory McIlroy, considering, you've got Scottie Scheffler who fits the golf course mold a little bit more, but in small field, if we see like a 3-to-1 ownership disparity or a 2-to-1 ownership disparity, I think that's pretty live to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how big it'll be. I do think there will be some. And again, the tools will update as we get closer to lock, and we're going to see that. I'm with you, though. I'm always kind of team Rory. I think that what he did quietly a little bit over, on the DPT and everything, he looks good. The other guy, though, again, there's a million, but Hovland caught my eye in my first Sims run.
Yeah.
He looked good. He does a lot of what Rory does naturally. They remind me of the same player at times. We've seen him take on challenging conditions and be fine. Hovland's around the green game has improved. It's still not good, but it's improved. What about starting with Hovland and omitting the big two?
Yeah, the one recurring theme that I heard on multiple shows this week, multiple podcasts, did you know Victor Hovland won the U.S. Amateur at Pebble Beach? It's like, shocking. No shit. Very aware. Obviously, this is going to be very different as far as a setup from what you get in a USG event. I think something like that, even U.S. Amateurs, as somebody who's played in U.S. Mid-Ams, I've played in those before. Golf courses are completely different setups than anything else you'll face. If you hit it in the rough, you're dead, you're toast. Here, that's not the case. You can hit it in the rough and you can still get it close. And, obviously with the rain, that's a question. But the way this golf course is set up, I think it's going to open it up a little bit more to guys that aren't as accurate as what a Victor Hovland is. And that's where I get a little bit concerned that it might be a little bit more of a putting fest and short game fest. And we know that chipping is still the bugaboo here for Victor Hovland. And I feel like he can just go out and put on a ball striking masterclass, but I'm very worried that he ends up by far the most popular in this range. I know the ownership doesn't have that, but he's 10-2. He allows for you to build more quote unquote like balanced builds, even though most people go stars and scrubs on these kind of weeks. But Victor Hovland, he's got 21.6% ownership currently, and Scottie Scheffler's got a little bit more. I'd actually be surprised for 1,200 less if people didn't land on more Victor Hovland, because one, he has good course history here. Two, this is just a dude who it's hard for me to find him like live to burn you over the course of 4 rounds here, but because there's no cut, I think I'm going to probably be dropping down elsewhere.
Yeah, and again, I'm completely fine. I'm going to put Hovland in the pool. I'm not sure I'll be able to get over, but that's going to be a field thing.
Yep, same.
So I'm going to look at that. Which course is easier and is as big of a deal as North versus South last week? I don't think it's as big a deal. I think Spyglass has shown that it's tougher. But the elements will determine that. I don't think it's nearly as drastic as the North versus the South, though.
So one thing I will say, and this is just having, caddied in pretty bad conditions out there for that. It was like a November round when I was caddying at Spyglass. But the one thing I do remember one of the local caddies saying was that Pebble is harder when it's crazy windy. Spyglass is easier when so it's harder when it's super windy compared to Spyglass. Spyglass is a little bit easier because you get wind off the ocean on a couple of longer par 4s. But then the inverse is basically true where, Pebble Beach is much easier in clear conditions. Now, we're going to get bubble golf on Friday, Saturday. It's going to be pretty easy relative. It should be mitigated wind. It should be very, very soft. And so I think Spyglass will probably play harder for the Friday round, is kind of the way that I'm viewing it. Maybe by like a shot and a half. But Spyglass traditionally has a little bit more teeth to it than what you get at Pebble Beach.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work down again. There's going to be a bunch of big names: Xander Cantlay, JT Spieth, who we tie him to Pebble Beach for good reasons. One here before. Max Homa is the California guy. Morikawa, Aberg. Talk to me about the nines. I like JT. I'm going to save him for a hot take later, but I'll just say I do like him if it gets nasty. Who else do you like, or who do you see in the nines as showing some potential leverage?
Everybody. I don't know how to parse through this. I think this is kind of what makes this tournament difficult for me is like I can make a case for everybody in the 9K range. And like I just know the ownership is going to gravitate heavily towards Scheffler and Hovland. And so I kind of find myself wanting to get down here, roster. I mean, JT, 2.5% optimal percentage in Top Golfer Stool, that can't be correct because JT's form has been much better. Like just even watching him play in the desert, I feel so much better about JT going forward because he comes from a lineage of professional golfers. He's somebody who hasn't always had it at times, but like he always finds a way back. And the putter was really kind of the question mark for him. It disappeared off the face of the earth. And then all of a sudden the driver disappeared. And then all of a sudden his superpower, his irons just kind of disappeared. And you were like, what the hell do we do with JT? I think we can all kind of rest assured that he's somewhat back at 9,600, and I want to be early to the party on these kind of things. So I also feel like Jordan Spieth, with the ability that he has to play in adverse conditions, he has obviously a really good course history here, plays in this almost every year with the AT&T sponsorship. Didn't last year, but still, for the most part, you're seeing Jordan Spieth out here all the time. And then Max Homa 9,200 is just too damn cheap. Colin Morikawa, the iron specialist. Like, as I said, there's like a case to be made for everybody in the 9K range. I think my plan of attack is probably to remove a lot of the ownership of Hovland Schauffele the way that people have it currently in large field and gravitate towards these 9K guys and be overweight to two, maybe three of them. I think Cantlay's probably the guy who ends up getting squeezed purely because 9,700, if I'm looking to combine multiple pieces, he's probably the guy who gets steamed up the most.
I do like kind of messing around with a JT Homa start or something like that.
That's my single entry right now, by the way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You have so many flexible options. You can dip into the sixes. You can land in the sevens. You can do a lot. It grades out nicely. Again, we're putting the sims on the screen because it's one of the many things here at Stokastic that we're making people a lot of money. Millie winners, the man I'm doing the show with, had a big NBA win. It's the same technology for PGA. Now we've got it for golf. Yeah, I would look to start single entries. If you're going to go get Rory, I think there's no problem with that. If you don't, I would start with JT. I like JT a lot this week. But I want to keep going down a little bit to your boy, Sam Burns, Tony Finau, Fleetwood, who you mentioned with Rory was doing some things overseas. Cam Young, is that someone who can use his driver to an advantage here? What do you think about the upper eights?
It's tough. I right now think the upper eights probably just don't fall for me outside of Fleetwood. Like I'm going to get a lot of Fleetwood at 8,600. That's just the around the green approach, putter kind of spectacular. I mean, he's one of those guys also that it feels like Open Championship style, like brutality. He's somebody that I feel like I've always seen wearing a beanie, always see just like out there grinding, making like he's somebody who will fight for your money a little bit. And I kind of like that. I don't know if I can really get to my guy, Sam Burns, this week. I was obviously very much there at the American Express, felt really, really good about that. But this is one where feels like he ends up falling by the wayside for me. I'd probably fire up a little bit more Finau or Cameron Young. But it feels like Fleetwood's the only guy that I'm really got any kind of a stance on. The only guy that I have double digits of out of my first 150.
When you look at, certainly you know that I'm a big Tommy Fleetwood guy. His ROI grades out really nice. We'll see how things update, but I'm with you. The bottom of the eights is really interesting, though. You've got Jason Day, Decky, who's shown some form, Fitzy, who I think fits nasty conditions, Holgard, who's been up there, Tom Kim and Benyon. Benyon is not overpriced because he's been playing really well, but he's obviously priced to the premium. To me, Fitzy's the guy I want to ask you about the most of what you think, but what do you think of this range?
Yeah, I love Fitzy. Again, I feel like I'm building for a US Open,
Yeah, you
which
got to
is
take that
weird.
mentality.
Like I don't feel like it's going to play difficult like that, but it's almost like these are the kind of guys that just have that iron around the green, put the ball in play, just kind of plot it around to off the tee. If it's not going to be difficult in that regard, if it's not going to be 50 degrees with the wind and you have to be bombing a driver on a couple of different holes, like I just trust Fleetwood and Matt Fitzpatrick so much more than the rest of this range in adverse conditions. And I actually wanted to ask you about Jason Day, because this is the guy that I'm thinking about absolutely jamming here, and I don't really know if I can stomach it. He's one of those pieces that he has the higher ball flight, but you look at like PGA Championships coastline, he's played well at like a Whistling Straits in adverse conditions. He's played well at different times where it just, I go back to like Connecticut 2 years ago, I think it was, or Boston, one of the two, where it was just rainy, awful wet. And Jason Day was out there just grinding, putting up numbers. And I think Jason Day just 8,400. I think him, Sung J M, like I'm just kind of gravitating middle, lower eights here for a lot
Okay.
of these pieces. Probably not Hideki for me this week. Probably not Nikolai Hogard, because it just seems like he's the new golfer du jour, or golfer what French for a week. I don't know. It just seems like every week people want to play Nikolai Hogard just because he had so much artificial ownership last week. It was a little shocking at the end.
Yep.
I thought I was being sneaky, but what do you think about lower eights?
So there's no doubt that Fitzy's the priority. Everything I think he checks out great.
Yep.
The Sims love him. Everything seems all systems go. Guy I'm struggling with the most is Tom Kim. I still don't really know what to do with him in life. He hasn't had a great start to the year, in the last couple, but this is still a talented young kid who won during swing season. Jason Day loves Pebble. I mean, this guy,
Love.
he seems to love pro-ams and 8-hour rounds. This is right in his wheelhouse. I have zero issue with him. I'm not saying I'm throwing Decky out, but I'm with you on the outside looking in. Benny On is tough. I'm a big Benny On guy. I mean, listen, it's a non-cut. These are good golfers. They're all playable. I'd say I'm lukewarm on, definitely behind Fitzy, definitely behind Day.
Yep, I'm with you on all of those. Obviously, Tom Kim we're happy with because he cashed a plus 330 to miss a cut ticket
Yes, he
for us.
did.
But I will say I would be okay falling into a couple of shares with him this week. One of the things that happens is that people, we always think that they're going to take advice and use the data, and that they're going to, absolutely, no doubt about it, factor in that golf courses change. But they don't. There's so many people that still just jam based off of what they just saw the previous week. And that's where it's like a guy like Hogard, I'm probably going to be out on. Hideki, I'm probably going to be out on to some extent. I'll probably have a little bit. But Tom Kim kind of feels like the buyback. So
Yeah.
maybe I get a little bit more than what I'm anticipating. But right now, I'm pretty flat to the field.
Yeah, and I think that's a point that is super important early in the season of guys are A, getting in form, and B, what you need at Torrey South is not what you need at Pebble. It's just not. If you can do both, great. But some guys would thrive in one and struggle in the other. I am with you. Let's talk about the sevens. It's the next part of the mid-range. Post and Thigala. Russell Henley, who I think really could get going early. I'm not sure he'll hold up in the wind, but I do like him. Your boy Bo Hostler, Keegan Connor, Scott Harmon. A lot of names here. What are you looking for your mid-range plays?
Everything. So again, I'm pretty heavy in the nines and upper nines. It's just a free for all. JT Poston, give me all of that you got. I mean, I think by now the putter combination with what the irons can be on any given week. I mean, it's just so hard for me not to click on him. Russell Henley, probably the best play of the entire week. I bet he ends up getting very, very popular. He's the one piece of chalk I don't care. I'm going to play Russell Henley pretty much no matter what happens to his ownership between now and lock. And then I love Bo Hostler. I know that that's not everybody's cup of tea. And I get that you see that he's in the same range as a Thigala. You see that he's next to Keegan Bradley, Corey Connors. And it's like, why does Bo Hostler belong here? Well, the guy does what I want him to do, which is around the green game better than just about anybody. So Bo Hostler just goes out and puts up numbers. He obviously is very familiar with coastal golf. He just dominated California in his amateur days. NCGA, SCGA. He was just dominating all of it. So Beau Hossler here in a golf course that I think sets up pretty well. There were 3 golfers I thought about betting. I haven't bet anybody yet, but they all exist in this range. They are Poston, Henley, Hossler. I'm going to have tons of them in DFS.
Henley made my betting article. It's posted over
really?
on OddChopper.
Good
number on him. This guy knows what he's doing. And I actually like that Russell Henley is not someone where it's like, oh, Russell Henley and Pebble, like they're just, no, but he should fit this perfectly. He should fit this perfectly. It's the type of course that's really good for him. Again, the tools love it. Adam Scott. I put him in the Jason Day bucket of like, I think this makes sense, but I feel very, very scared to do it. What do you make of a guy that, again, we haven't seen him here doing anything in quite some time?
I don't know. I don't. Little sprinkle? I could little sprinkle. I mean,
come on in. The water's warm.
God, what?
Not that warm.
It's not that warm.
It's really not that warm. But...
I don't know. I mean, the irons have been weird. That's kind of the last thing for me is like the last 24, last 50 round sample sizes you go through for it. It's been spotty, but obviously there's not really a sample size for it. We haven't really seen him. I know he was in Australia. Yeah. I know he kind of is just getting his season kicked off, but like, I don't know what to make of him. I think maybe that's just kind of like that unknown bucket, but like you have Harmon, you have Kirk, who I like this week. Okay. You have Siwoo. Like these are all guys that I think Eric Cole, as we get to the lower sevens, I'm kind of getting jump started here, but it's more just like, do I want to play Adam Scott pulling nearly 10% ownership here, like at 7,600, or do I just want to like take the savings and, you know, add 5% and get different elsewhere with Eric Cole? Like if I'm avoiding the 10K, 11K range as much as what it looks like I am outside of Rory, who I think is going to get squeezed, I like getting to just the bottom 7 guys and then just above Adam Scott, all of those guys that I listed off before. So can't play everybody. You know, everybody wants to have a stand somewhere. For me, I'm not really having a stand on Scott, I suppose. It's just, for me, I think he's just getting squeezed as a result of what I like around him. That's just more known quantities to me.
You know who else is around him, and he's about 160 to 1 to win the tournament, is Ricky Fowler.
No, I knew you were going to do it.
I don't know if I can do it. He
fits the golf course profile really, really well. He does. Irons around the green game. If the putter can spike, awesome. You know, like we've seen at times with that putter, the Jailbird, the Odyssey Jailbird. We've seen it pop from time to time, but I don't know, man. It's so hard to feel any kind of warm and fuzzies clicking on Ricky Fowler this week.
No, Eric Cole. I mean, just look at it on the screen. Again, and these are going to update as we refine and whatnot, but average simulated ROI,
Eric Cole,
quite a difference. And I lean to Cole as well. And it's a perfect time. I know I've been talking about this and you guys know about it, but if you have not given a chance to these type of tools, even if you're saying, you know what, I'm not ready for the Sims, PGA lineup generator is also available. They're in the links in the description. You have the PGA Sims, you have the PGA lineup generator. These are the tools that we are using, and the results speak for themselves. Again, you've seen it. Steve Buzzer just won another Millie Maker in the NFL. Now, that guy, in addition to being a mega sharp, he also, how he got Brock Purdy to not drop back 1 extra yard on that kneel down, I'll never know, because that's what saved him. But incredible stuff, and these tools are not going away. If you want to test them out, even for a week, and see if this fits your type of build, or you're saying, you know what, I've been struggling and I'm looking for something new. Let me see if I can incorporate that. The links are there in chat. Really no better time to do it with NFL winding down and PGA heating up. But let's keep going. Again, we're going to just run through this field. We're not going to waste time. We've got Hadwin and Jaeger, Evan Yu, Nick Taylor, Noren. I like Noren a lot this week. The low 7s I still think are pretty deep, and that just speaks to an elevated event.
You guys know by now, Sep Straka. If you've listened to me, and
I do like Sep.
My favorite thing was looking at the Sims this morning and working through my process and seeing him as the highest average simulated ROI golfer. That's useful. That's useful, friends. This guy is so good, and I play him all the time, and nobody listens to me because it just never gets to double-digit ownership, and it shocks me all the time because he is so damn good. And this is the golf course where you really want him. Like, I know the around the green game doesn't necessarily fit the profile of what you might expect here for this place, but approach, the putter can definitely turn it around and I'd be just fine with it. But like, this is the time that you're getting Sep Straka at the absolute low point. You saw in an Open Championship last year, wet, windy, ridiculous, going him and Brian Harman. Again, it's like an Open Championship or US Open style builds that I'm getting to. And that seems to be reflected also in our average simulated ROI for the Sims tool this week. Sep Straka, Matt Fitzpatrick, Brian Harman, Russell Henley, Eric Cole. Like, these guys all fall into that bucket. And Sep Straka, again, I'm looking across the industry at a number of spots that have him at 2%, 3%. This will be the golfer I probably have the highest stand on of the entire week outside of Russell Henley.
And again, the difference is with Russell Henley, to have a big stand, you need a lot because people are playing him. With Sep Straka, not going to be the case. I want to give a shout out to Lloyd in chat. It says, firing from the hip in the $12 single entry, first ever PGA contest. Welcome aboard. Once you start, you're going to be addicted because it is so much fun sweating out PGA lineups. It also definitely takes years off your life, but that's all right. It's worth it. Great sweat. Enjoy it. Let's make some money with it. I'm gonna ride with Alex Noren. He's playing really good golf. He's making cuts. 25th at Amex, second in Bermuda during swing season. He can score. He doesn't mind easy conditions, but he also doesn't mind windy conditions. Very kind of bizarre profile for him. He's got European experience where they play in crazy weather. I like Noren a lot this week in the low sevens. Him and Straka, I'm going to tell you on that. Those are names that I think you can get to. I'm not on Pavone. I don't really like Todd. I don't really like English. Anything else you want to talk about in the low sevens? EVR.
Are we going to play EVR?
I don't know. That's a tough one.
I'm having a tough time with him, I suppose. Again, you can't play everybody. You know, nope. I'm not going to play everybody. And I'm obviously going to have the 7K range peppered at Sep Straka and then the upper range, Henley, Poston, Hostler. Like, I'm going to be playing tons of those guys. Brian Harman as well. But I don't think I need to get overweight to anybody here. There's some 6K guys. Obviously this is an 80-person field, so there's going to be pieces down here. Lucas Glover we'll talk about in a minute. Taylor Moore even, but I don't think I have to get to EVR. I think I'm probably okay just bypassing it, but I at least stared at it for a while. I think just because it's a no cut, I think I'm more inclined to try to fire somebody else up that I think just has more upside. EVR feels like, you know, we've seen him at the American Express play well, some easy conditions, spots, played well. He won the WWT, but like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. I just decided.
I think that you can put EVR on a bucket of off the tee stacks if you want to do that on some teams. I don't really want to do that. He's a good driver of the ball. Cam Davis is down there you can pair with. Keith Mitchell is down there you can pair with. I'm more drawn to other types of golfers. Chat mentioned Nick Taylor. I think I'd have Nick Taylor ahead of him. I'd rather go to a guy like that. Obviously had success at Pebble before a couple years ago. How low? I mean, the beautiful thing about an 80-man non-cut, these are real players in the sixes. Like, these are guys that are 8,500 in weak fields. Griot's down here. Shank is down here. List is down here. Nick Dunlap is here. I'm not playing him, but just wanted to mention it. What are you looking at in the sixes?
Rogers, I think right off the bat.
Oh yeah.
It's a 4-round event. If it wasn't, you probably don't feel good about a chalkier Patrick Rogers, but give me 4 rounds of Patrick Rogers. You're going to get something low. You're going to get 1 round. It's just a question, does he shoot 75 to knock you out of it too? I think you got to fire up a little bit of him. And then Taylor Montgomery, I never play Taylor Montgomery, ever, ever, ever. And the fact that my model actually likes him this week tells me something, that I should probably play Taylor Montgomery and not be biased against him. It has more to do with just what that putter can be. And he fits certain skill sets that I think you compare the around the green putter with. If it is so bad and just so ridiculous and you're hitting 2 irons off of tees everywhere, this golf course, Pebble Beach, it's not long. It's not demanding off the tee. The main thing that at the US Open that Gary Woodland had as an advantage was he just hit 2 iron everywhere. And, 500-yard par 4s, it was still running out because it was US Open style conditions where it's firm fairways. They brought the rough in, or grew the rough up. They brought the fairways in. So it was much more narrow than it normally plays. For this, if it's just going to be spray and you're fine, like, I think Taylor Montgomery is very, very alive this week. So 6,800, I'm overweight. Probably the first time I've ever been overweight to him in a year and a half of PGA DFS where he's existed.
So I'm going to give you a guy that I think is super similar to Taylor Montgomery and a real dark horse in this type of field. Mackenzie Hughes is like that. Elite around the green, elite putting, terrible off the tee, not good with the irons. He's got to mask that. Do I think I want to hitch my wagons to Mackenzie Hughes? No. Do I think that I could start with a Spieth type lineup and build crafty putter around the green stacks? Yes, I do. And I think Taylor Montgomery and Mackenzie Hughes in the sixes fit that type of build.
Love. I'm going to put that together here right now. Just made a note of it.
Rio's putting well. I think that I got to give him a shout out there. Bez is Bez. He's also in that conversation. We've got a lot of similar players. Andrew Putnam is that type of player. But then you do have a couple people that are driver centric. Svensson, Luke List, Grayson, all bomber type guys. Not crazy, but not short hitters either. What do you make of them? I mean, is that the range you want to go? Even Kurt Kitayama, who's struggled a little bit. I'm not sure that's my favorite punt plays of the group.
Yeah, no, not my favorite either. I mean, Lucas Glover, if he doesn't have the yips, that's always a fun time to be in on Lucas Glover. I just don't know what those weeks are going to be. But from a ball striking perspective, he's somebody that if it is brutal out, pairs nicely with other ball striking groups where it's just like, hey, if it's that bad, let's just try to get the ball on the green every single time. That's a good way to mitigate conditions. But super small greens, Lucas Glover is going to miss a couple. And if it gets out of hand, it could just get ugly quick. But Kurt Kitayama, I'm probably not going to be clicking on. Adam Schenk, I thought about clicking on a little bit. Approach putter combination. Thought that had some viability, but doesn't fit more of what I'm trying to do with some of these other builds. I suppose more Ben Griffin around the green putter. But yeah. I think this is just a spot where these are better golfers than you're generally getting in a 6K range. Mark Hubbard is somebody that showed up in a couple of my builds. And for me, I just kind of went over to the Sims tool and took a look at a couple of those pairings and looked at some like golf course stack types. And so for me, it's more of just like peeling a couple of those 6-guy ranges and pairing them with like my core in each individual build rather than say, hey, I have a stand with this golfer. Because there's really nobody down here that I'm like, I feel all that good about. I think Putnam at the 6K range is the only guy who's going to get a ton of attention. Do you see anybody else getting even over like 5% down here? Because I really don't. Maverick McNeely, maybe because he's a local dude.
Yeah, I think more people will be willing to go into the deep sixes knowing you're getting 4 rounds. This is not a normal week of golf where it's like, oh, I'm going to play this guy and he's going to get cut and I'm dead. You're going to say, okay, I want to play, I want a Scheffler Xander start and I want to hit Henley and I want to do that. And I'll punt with, Maverick McNeely or Taylor Moore or someone like that. I think you do see that this week and I think it can absolutely work. I just think you want to be careful with it. Davis or Kitayama, it would be Cam Davis for me.
Yep, Cam Davis for sure between the two.
Does the winning lineup have a 6K range guy often? Yeah, I mean, that definitely happens. Don't shy away from the 6K range.
One thing I will bring up, so I was doing a kind of a deep dive on just the 2-course rotation as opposed to the 3-course rotation, and I trimmed off MPCC. Now, Monterey Peninsula Country Club was an awesome golf course. Coastline, they have 2 different 18s out there. One of the most beautiful par 3s you've ever seen in your life that my best friend got engaged at up there. It was a great time. Good times had by all. But Sheamus Power, I've got him as like the best adjusted golfer in terms of like the 2 main courses. Ooh. So if you go to, if you just trim off MPCC, we go back to, where is this event? I did this work. I gotta at least get, come on. There
come on now.
Come on, thing. All right, here it is. So back in, what year was this? It was 2022. You had first round, second round leader Sheamus Power go 64-64 at Pebble and Spyglass, shoots 74 at MPCC, 72 then, finishes tied for 9th there in that spot. But had talked before that he didn't necessarily like the setup of MPCC as much, which is weird because, again, it's pretty wide open. You have like some like ravine type stuff. So you go out to the coast for a couple of really cool holes. The 18-mile drive kind of goes directly through the golf course there on the coast. It's a beautiful spot, but I think Sheamus Power at 6K, if it's going to be absolutely horrendous out, and this might be an absolute buyback in on a spot where he's playing the 2 golf courses that we saw the 64-64 from. 2-round sample size. He has not been playing good. It is what it is. Misses the cut at the Farmers, but like you get back in a spot you have good juju from, and I don't know, it's going to look a lot like Ireland out there this week. So screw it. I think Sheamus Power I'm going to get to like 5% of.
Ooh, little sleeper pick, Sheamus Powers, and I'll bring up right now because I was going to mention it. It's no better time to do it for a top 20. And make sure you shop this oddshopper.com. Sheamus is 6-1 for a top 20 in an 80-man field. That's pretty damn appealing. That's not bad. That's pulled over at BetMGM, and I do want to mention it's been on the screen. They sponsor this video, and it's good timing because with the Super Bowl, as I've been talking about on all my videos, if you watch the NFL one, you see all these deals. These books want your business for the NFL. It's winding down, and they're willing to do it. They're doing a bet and get. And what does that mean? If you don't play on BetMGM, you're in a legal betting state. If you sign up, the link is below. You see it'll say bet 5, get 158. And that means if you deposit $10 and bet $5, win or lose, you're getting $158 in bonus bets. You can use that money to fund that account, to build it up, hopefully, to build it up into something nice and have extra money in the bankroll. Maybe you build it and transfer it over to another book. Maybe you just say, I'm going to use this more and more. Apparently, Eric doesn't believe in it. He just left. But for the rest of you, come on in and check out BetMGM. The link is below. You got to be 21 plus. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm pointing right to it. And Jordan, my man, just put it in the chat. Eric claims he's going to be on NBA Live before lock tonight. It might be fake news, considering what we got. We don't have many golfers left, but I do just want to rattle off the bottom of the range from guys, Taylor Moore, Maverick, Kuchar. Look who's back. You heard Matt Kuchar's name and you said, okay, let me chime in before he says something
That's
stupid.
what did it for me. Yeah, yep. I love guys who don't tip their caddies and are absolute stooges. Yeah, it's great.
That sums it up nicely. One last guy for me, and then we'll get to the hot takes and bounce on out of here. I like Nick Hardy. I've been playing him. I'm going to stick with him. I think this is actually a pretty good setup. He's another guy. He can't really putt. The ball striking has been fine. He's been positive on the approach and off the tee in 4 straight. He has made a string of cuts on the PGA Tour, 37th at Farmers, at I think an objectively worse setup. Give me Nick Hardy as one of my favorite really dirt cheap paydown options.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I don't mind Nick Hardy also getting guaranteed 4. I mean,
that's what I mean. He can score.
It's a little bit better situation. I mean, obviously, this flattens out. Like, there's going to be somebody who shoots $1 million down here. There's going to be a landmine or two that exist here, but for the most part, you're going to have a lot of these guys much, much closer to the 8-9K range than what people think. So for me down here, it's definitely going to be Sheamus Power as just your absolute flat, complete stars and scrubs kind of guy. But I'll at least give the mandatory shout out to Maverick McNeely, who I feel like he goes in the category of one of my dudes, extremely good putter. That's what he does. He beat Tiger's scoring record at Stanford. He is one of those kids that he never has to think about money as long as he lives because his dad basically owns Titleist, Acushnet. He is the CEO of, or was once upon a time. Anywho, you're looking at him. Well, no, that's a different. That was that's Peter Uihlein. Sorry, Peter Uihlein. But his dad is a billionaire. Maverick McNeely is an absolute certified. There you go, absolute billionaire, but amazingly good putter. And I mean, obviously Stanford, not that far away, and this is like his calling card. Like Maverick McNeely. Just small golf course, get hot with a putter, maybe ride it into the sunset. So like, I think he ends up being a little bit more popular than currently projected because I've heard him on every podcast I listened to this morning, but I'm okay getting to a little bit there.
No doubt about it. We're going to see how the weather develops, certainly for things like Showdown, which is covered by the tools. But if you have questions, you see it on the screen at Ras DFS, at Eric Lindquist. We're both on Twitter. We're active. We're happy to help. You can give us a follow there. And of course, you can find us on Discord. If and when you sign up and you're part of the Stokastic family or the Oddshopper family, you'll be in there with us. You know what time it is. It's hot take time. We're going to give just some hot takes, little against the grain for Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I'm going to give mine right now. I'm going to lead us off. Not going to get crazy. This is very simple. Justin Thomas at 25-1 was my first bet and my favorite bet in this tournament. I think that JT's playing good golf. I think he's motivated after a bad 2023. And I think he can handle these conditions. I really do. He thrives in non-cuts. Justin Thomas at 25-1, even in a strong field, I think is a gift, and it's one of the only outright bets that I really was drawn to this week. That's my hot take, sir. You've been on a hot take with your hot takes. Keep it going. Let's hear it.
All right. So I haven't bet anything this week yet. So we'll see if I decide to pull the trigger. I think it's maybe a little bit late in the week for me, but I'm going to do this because I don't think that I've done this since it was the John Deere, Steve Stricker. I'm going to have 100% Russell Henley this week. I think that's going to be it. 7,800. I'm just jamming him. I don't see any way at 7,800 that in 4 rounds, no cut, this golf course specifically, that Russell Henley doesn't go out and end up optimal. So I will throw out an optimal piece, somebody that I will have in every single lineup that I make in DFS this week. Russell Henley just puts the smackdown, finishes top 6. That's what we're looking for.
That is a great hot take. I like it. We keep it. See, we got to keep the people guessing. We got a little betting and a little DFS, a whole lot of information here at Stokastic. We appreciate you guys again. I know the ride or dies. Golf is just getting started, and we cannot wait to show more and more of these tools and get more and more people inside the ropes. For me, for Eric, for Jordan Klein, who's been hanging out with me for hours on hours, doing trivia, NFL, anything in between. We appreciate everyone. Let's make some money this week. For first-time players, every-time players, come back next week and let's talk waste management. But until then, guys, enjoy everything. We'll talk to you soon.